Carter.
Right.
B. Ramsey.
Yes, sir.
On the tee, boy.
When can we tee off?
Who's playing with you?
Oh, just my son.
Well, I'm sorry, but only foursomes on Sunday, Mr. Kimball.
We should have been told about this before. We're new members here.
Well, I'll make up a foursome for you directly, sir. Oh, do you mind making up a foursome, Professor?
Why, not at all.
With Mr. Roberts and Professor Barstow.
My name's Barstow. How do you do?
How do you do, sir? This is my son, Manuel.
How do you do?
Glad to meet you. If you're members of the club, I suppose you know Mr. Roberts.
Yes, we've met.
Oh, yes. Well, I hate to intrude in your game, Professor Barstow.
Nothing of the sort. Glad to have you. Well, that's all settled. This cap's too tight. Run back to the clubhouse and see if you can get my visor, will you? Good shot. That boy hasn't come back yet. He has my clubs.
Use my driver.
Oh, thank you. The mosquito bit me just as I hit the ball.
Oh, that's too bad.
Good shot. Yours is a very familiar name. E.J. Kimball. I know I've heard it before.
Well, of course, I know who you are. You're president of Wilson College.
That's right. E.J. Kimball. Seems to me I heard that name a long time ago. Now I remember. E.J. Kim... This is awkward.
Roberts! Manuel! You better run for a doctor.
There's no need of a doctor. He's dead.
Dead.
How long do you have to work for Nero Wolfe to get a key of your own?
He hasn't got a key himself.
He doesn't need one. He never goes out. And this was the first day of your vacation. I even gave up my job. This was the day we were going to get married. So instead of that, you take me along on a wild goose chase to find a dame who makes homebrew for Nero Wolfe, and we end up ringing doorbells.
What do you want me to do? Break in a window?
I want you to take that job with your uncle in the furniture business.
All right, I will.
You'd make a wonderful salesman, Archie.
I just said I would.
And you wouldn't be slaving away for this beer-guzzling orchid grower. When you could have regular working hours. And I might get to see the inside of a nightclub again. Go ice skating or even see a show again. When are we going to get married?
Now listen.
You've been promising me every day for a week we get married, and we're still not married.
Now listen.
As soon as I report to the chief about Marie, we'll be married. In a half an hour, you and I will be Mr. and Mrs. Archie Goodwin. I promise you. Now, will you please let me ring this doorbell in peace? If Nero Wolfe has to answer this bell himself, he'll fire me.
Are you sure of that?
Certainly, I'll guarantee it. Hey, Wolfe will get sore.
Let him.
But you can't.
Quiet so we can hear the bell. Just my luck.
Mm-hmm. So you don't come back with Marie, no?
No. Listen, I'm tired and I'm hungry. My feet hurt and I got a headache. I'm going to sit right down here and get some lunch. I can't find Marie. I don't know where Marie is. I can't get any of her homebrew. Now, you go upstairs and tell that to Wolfe.
Tell me yourself. You couldn't find Marie.
She left the house early. The place is all locked up.
Our mother made the only beer I could drink during Prohibition. I got used to it. I can't drink any other. And now Marie is the only one that knows how to make it. Get that beer out of here, all of it. I don't want it. You know what I'm going to be forced to do, Archie? Didn't I tell you to leave bread up here? Get me a slice of bread, quick. I'm being forced to go outside this house.
Chief, you don't want to do that.
You know what that means, don't you? I haven't been outside this house in 7 years. Fresh air kills me. The traffic drives me crazy. I live here alone with my beer and my orchids and my work. And now, because you can't find Marie, I've got to go out and find her myself.
But I went to 30 places.
You only had to go to one, the right place. The best beer maker in the world, and you can't find her.
But I've looked everywhere.
It isn't as if I asked you to do the impossible. There are only 6 million people in New York. It isn't as if she were anywhere in the United States.
I know how you feel, Chief, but I'll absolutely guarantee that Marie Marangola is nowhere in the city.
It's Marie.
Young lady, come upstairs. I want to talk to you.
Hurry up. The air's bad for the orchids.
Now, Marie, where have you been?
I was busy raising some money to bring to you.
Money? For me?
Yes. I want you to find my brother. Something's happened to him. He's gone. I brought you $50. Please, Mr. Wolfe.
Archie, take notes.
Archie, come on.
Not now. Go away. I'm busy now. Shut the door and go away.
Here goes the bride.
Archie, another bottle of beer. Now, Marie, tell us about your brother.
Carlo was out of work.
Yes?
I was supporting him.
Uh-huh.
2 weeks ago, he decided to go back to the old country.
Isn't that a new pencil?
Certainly.
Use these up first. And give me that paper. Here are some telegraph blanks. Use them. They cost us nothing. I hate these interruptions. Go on, Marie.
So I gave my brother the money for a steamship ticket. He was a metal worker. He made the springs for guns.
I see.
3 days before he was going to go away, he got work. He telephoned me. He was happy, so happy. He said he was going to stay in America after all. He told me to meet him at a restaurant Monday night. We were going to celebrate. He didn't come.
Does he live with you?
No, he lives at 84 Groover Street. But he hasn't been there since Monday.
Archie, go to 84 Groover Street. Have a look around. If you see anything that looks unimportant to you, bring it to me.
Won't you please look for him yourself?
Archie is my eyes, my ears, my arms, and my legs. He does everything for me but think. Don't worry, Marie. We'll bring your brother back to you, or it won't cost you a penny.
He hasn't got Carlo up his sleeve, but he's liable to pull him right out the drawer.
Uh-huh. Evidently, Carlo read the Standard.
What did I tell you? He's brilliant. That's detecting.
He was looking for a job for months and always cutting out advertisements. He used to give me the paper in the afternoon. Monday's paper had a bigger hole than the others.
Must have been a bigger job.
No, I threw it away, but it wasn't a job. There was something cut out on the first page.
The first page? You come along with me and tell that to Nero Wolfe.
But I can't go. I gotta dust the hallway and answer the doorbell and telephone. I can't go.
I'll take care of that.
But I can't go.
Get your hat and coat. You know, Maisie, the sooner this girl gets to Nero Wolfe, the sooner the case is settled. And naturally, the sooner the case is settled, the sooner I go on my vacation. And the sooner I go on my vacation, the sooner you and I get married. See you later, baby. That's a copy of the paper that Carlo cut the story out of.
Well, that's fine. Now let's see what Carlo was interested in.
That's a cinch. I'll bet you a quarter I can pick this story.
It's a bet. League of Nations report on Ethiopia ready for powers. Mrs. Roosevelt addresses young mothers. River rights hearing set by United States body. Boys playing round the world trip on a 30-foot boat. Gangsters tear gassed out of a Brooklyn flat.
That's the story I'm putting my 2 bits on.
Bring in that housemaid.
Come on in, babe.
Now, lady, did you read a story in the paper about some gangsters being gassed out of a Brooklyn hideout?
In Greenpoint? Sure, I read about that.
Pay off, Archie. If she read it, it couldn't have been the story Carlo cut out.
You'd rather win a quarter from me than a $25,000 fee from a multimillionaire.
And now, young lady, can you show me on this newspaper where the piece was cut out?
Up at the top, above the weather report.
Oh, you mean up here?
Yeah, that's right.
River rights hearing set by United States party. We can eliminate that. Give me a pin, Archie. And let me have your knife, Archie. Is that the way the paper was cut?
Yeah, that's the way.
Thank you very much, young lady.
I promised her a couple of bucks.
Well, why don't you pay her? I didn't promise it to her.
What is it? What's the story cut out? That's one for the book. A mug like Carlo cutting out a story about a college professor kicking off. Now, my theory about Carlo...
I'm thinking, never mind your theory. Give this money to Marie. She's waiting downstairs.
What? You're giving back money?
Yes. We told her we would find her brother for her. But we can't do that. The only thing we can find is his body. The police will probably do that for her. You see, Carlo didn't just disappear. He died. And he didn't just die. He was murdered. Give her this money, too. She'll probably need it to bury him with.
Well, how do you work that out? This story in the paper ain't about Carlo. It's about a college professor.
Oh, the professor. Oh, that poor fellow didn't just drop dead. No. He was murdered, too.
Why do you think so hard? I thought Nero Wolfe did all the thinking.
Why does he think they were murdered?
Nero Wolfe thinks that everybody that dies is murdered.
But the doctor said he died of heart failure.
What's your diagnosis, housemaid's knee?
For you, Archie.
Aw, is it some little gift you bought for me, Archie, darling?
No, I didn't buy nothing. It says it's for me. Golf clubs. Aren't they swell? I bet Mr. Wolfe bought them for me.
Oh, they finally came. Here, take them upstairs.
Well, what's the idea?
Bring them up to the parlor. I want to find out how to use them.
Golf in the parlor. He thinks it's like pool.
What are those bats with the big knobs on them?
It's not a bat. It's a club. And it's not a knob. It's a head.
Well, what is that on the front of it?
It's not the front. It's the face. Head, face.
Remarkable. What's the bull's eye thing there?
That marks the point of impact. That's where the ball is hit by the face of the club head.
Now, will you please pretend you are impacting the ball?
I'm now about to drive the ball.
Never mind doing a jig.
I am getting my stance.
The man ringing that bell has a badge. Only policemen, letter carriers, and firemen ring a bell with so much authority. Answer it, Archie.
I want to see Mr. Wolfe. I'm Lieutenant O'Grady.
Okay, we don't mind. Go on in. Lieutenant O'Grady, and he's got a badge.
Sit down, Lieutenant. I'll be with you in a few minutes. Go ahead with the golf lesson, Archie.
Hey, I come here on business.
Yes, I know, about Carlo Marangola. You identified his body today, and you want to know what we've taken from his room. Sit down for a minute, please. All right, Archie, go ahead.
Hey, listen, I haven't any time to waste.
Lieutenant, what this young man is trying to do may look crazy, but it's important. Now, he can't go on with it unless there's perfect silence.
What?
Go ahead, Archie. Now do that over and over. Now turn around. That was very careless of you. I'll have to charge you for that lamp. Now do that again. But have a little more regard for my personal property this time. You did that with too much fury. Now govern yourself and do it much slower. Very slowly. Slower than that. Still slower.
What am I supposed to be, a slow-motion cartoon?
Exactly. Now do that again. That's all, Archie. Now give me some more beer. This golf is very tiring. Now, what is it you want, Lieutenant?
Well, about that Marangola case. They found his body, bad heart, just quit on him.
A bad heart. Lieutenant, I'll bet you a new derby hat, any color you like, that you'll find Carlo Marangola's heart was as sound as a dollar, and so was Professor Barstow's. An autopsy will show you that he and Carlo were murdered, and by the same method.
Why, you're crazy.
That's not the issue that confronts us. Now remember, Carlo was a metal worker, a gunsmith. Now, this club looks like a gun, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And the shaft is hollow, like the barrel of a gun.
Yeah.
The curved head here, like the stock or the handle of a pistol. Now, my guess is that Carlo was told by someone to make a gun that would fire a small bullet, maybe a needle, and make it out of a driver like this one. Now, this insert would make a perfect place for a trigger. A spring in here would turn it into an air rifle. A hole in here would let the bullet or the needle be fired. Now then.
What's this?
Will my stance do, Archie?
Pretty good for a beginner.
Now, when I swing down to hit the ball so, the end of this homemade gun is pointing right above my waistline.
Waistline?
It's an imaginary line like the equator. The ball releases a spring here, and the bullet or needle is fired and finds its mark here.
You want us to make an autopsy on a guess like that? We wouldn't think of it.
Well, I know you wouldn't, but now that I thought of it for you, go ahead. That's all, Lieutenant.
Westchester Police today applied for an order to exhume the body of Professor Edgar G. Barstow in an effort to determine whether late President Wilson College met death through natural causes or was murdered. The first hint that foul play was suspected and that the deaths of Professor Barstow and Carlo Maringola were linked came from Lieutenant O'Grady of the Westchester County Police. That's O'Grady, grabbing bows.
Oh, let him grab him.
I wish you'd get that great brain to work on the problem of when are we going to get married.
We'll get married right after lunch.
So that onion soup smells delicious.
Onion soup. You're the one who found out it was a murder. It ought to be a cinch for you to grab the guy who did it.
You think I solve murders for fun? My interest is only aroused by the fee. Just now, my mind is on onion soup.
All right, then get a load of this. Mrs. Barstow, the widow of the dead man, issued a statement offering a $50,000 reward for the apprehension of the murderer should the autopsy show that Professor Barstow was the victim of foul play.
$50,000? Well, what are you waiting for? Why this dilly-dally? You want an engraved invitation to call on Mrs. Barstow? Well, get going. See her. Get her to offer the reward in writing.
On my tombstone, they're going to write, shed tears for Maisie Gray because she's a bride-to-be that never was.
No, not now. I'm working on Archie. The same technique we used on the Marlborough case. You start the birds and I'll dig up the worms.
Gee, Mr. Wolfe, this is terrible. You're separating a man and wife-to-be.
Maisie, I hope you'll be happily married for 50 years. If you are, an hour or two, more or less, one way or the other, won't make a particle of difference.
I meant what I said. Here's my offer of the reward in writing.
You could save time by making out the check right now. Wolf always gets his man.
He won't get his man this time, I can tell you that.
Then why'd you offer the reward?
My purpose doesn't come within the realm of your understanding.
Don't worry about that. Between Wolf and me, we understand everything. Do you know what we did in the Marlborough murder case?
No, I don't.
Of course not. That's one beyond your understanding. We only had a crushed-up daisy for a clue.
You're a disturbing element in this house. Go.
Now, if I'm going to work in this case, I expect some cooperation. I want to ask you just two questions. Who wanted to kill Barstow and who were his enemies? And who gained something from his death?
Those are 3 questions, Mr. Goodwin, and I'll answer them all. Nobody, nobody, nobody.
Mother, you promised me you wouldn't see anyone today. You were going to rest.
It's all right, dear. This is Mr. Goodwin. My daughter Ellen and Mr. Roberts.
Hi.
You shouldn't have come here like this. My mother is in no condition to be interviewed.
Mr. Goodwin isn't a newspaper man. He's a detective. He's associated with that Nero Wolfe person.
Oh. The district attorney just told me about you. You're making a newspaper sensation out of my father's death. My father wasn't murdered.
He didn't have an enemy in the world.
No. But I do know who's responsible for his death.
Mother.
Well, I do know.
Please, Mother.
Mrs. Barstow's very upset. She doesn't realize what she's saying.
Who did it?
The one who's been responsible for everything that happens in my life. No one's wise enough to outwit him.
Who?
Hamansa killed him.
Who?
Hamansa. He pulls the strings and we obey.
Whoever he is, I want to see him.
You have your chance now to meet him face to face. That's Hamansa.
That's Hamansa. So your father is out of town, huh, Mr. Kimball?
Yes. But I'm sure if he knew a great detective was going to call upon him, he'd have stayed home to see you.
When did he leave?
Don't you even know that? He left Sunday night by plane. He's in Chicago at the Blackbird Hotel, room 508. For breakfast, he has 2 soft-boiled eggs.
Enough of these trivialities. When is he coming back?
Now, look here, my dear fellow. You're supposed to do the guessing around here, not me. At the risk of being impolite, I'd say he's coming back when he gets good and ready.
He might come back long before that if Mr. Wolfe's investigations happen to implicate him. Or you. You said it was a heart attack, didn't you?
I have no reason to alter my diagnosis.
But that's not what Mr. Wolfe thinks.
I'm not interested in his opinions.
Oh, but you should be, because if Mr. Wolfe was right, it would be very embarrassing for you.
You better be careful. If he casts any aspersions on my professional reputation...
He's not interested in reputations. It's all cold turkey with him. And before he's finished, he'll know every mark you got when you graduated from medical school. If you did graduate.
I have advised Mrs. Barstow to withdraw her offer of reward. Are you a lawyer or a doctor? Mrs. Barstow, what are your feelings in the matter?
When I offered the reward, I'd no idea I'd have to deal with people like Mr. Goodwin here. He behaved like a crazy man.
In other words, Mr. Wolfe, this investigation has got to stop. Oh, no, Doctor. I don't tell you how to look for microbes, so please don't tell me how to look for murderers.
I declare a man dies of heart failure. And you have the brazen effrontery to tell me that my diagnosis is incorrect.
Oh, please, Doctor. All deaths are not caused by heart failure.
I'm speaking of angina pectoris. And I know the difference between angina pectoris and murder. And if the autopsy proves that my diagnosis is correct, I'm going to sue you and Mr. Goodwin for all the money you have.
What you'll get from me, you'll have to fight out in a small claims court.
And Mrs. Barstow will start suit on her own behalf for the mental anguish you caused her.
If anybody else starts to sue, I'll have to get change for a quarter.
Miss Ellen Barstow and Mr. Claude Roberts want to see you, Mr. Wolfe.
I'll bring them in. Won't you sit down?
I didn't know you'd be here, Mother. You shouldn't have let her come.
Don't treat me like a child, Ellen.
I believe what you're really doing is using this business as a camouflage. That when you've all the information you want, you'll make use of it for your own purpose. And what I have in mind is known by a very ugly name.
Blackmail.
Where do you come in on this little family gathering, Mr. Roberts?
I was with Professor Barstow when he was killed.
That's really something for you to worry about.
Mr. Manuel Kimball is outside.
So, there's always room for one more.
I hope you'll pardon me, Mr. Wolfe. I must leave.
So soon?
Yes, I have a golf lesson to give at the club.
Can't you stay and take me home?
You can go home with your mother and the doctor, Ellen.
Won't you sit down, Mr. Kimball? You know everyone? I must send this telegram. Archie. Get this off right away, will you?
I've come to notify you personally that if any of your insinuations against me or my father get into the newspapers, I shall hold you responsible in a damage suit.
Only me? They're going to sue Archie Goodwin, too.
Mr. Wolfe, you'll have to answer to all of us for this.
That seems very clear by now. You haven't been in Westchester long, have you?
No.
Before that in the Argentine?
I was born there.
Your father, E.J. Kimball, that is Emmanuel Jeremiah Kimball, isn't it?
Yes, that's my father's name.
Then you must be the little boy.
I'm afraid I don't understand.
It's really nothing.
I must still insist that Professor Barstow was murdered.
By one of us? Is that why you sent for us?
But I didn't send for any of you.
And we were very foolish to come here. Professor Barstow died of heart failure. He certainly was not murdered.
Hello? Yes. Uh-huh. All right. Thank you very much. Goodbye. That was the district attorney. The autopsy shows without a doubt that Professor Barstow was murdered by a poison needle. Shut it. Right in, right here. It's nice to have seen all of you.
So, after spending 87 cents for gas, 42 cents for oil, and driving all the way up to the West Hills Golf Club, you find that the young man who was breaking his neck to get out of here to give a golf lesson wasn't there.
Am I wrong, or did you send me to find him?
No, not to find him. If I thought he was going to be there, I wouldn't have sent you.
Where do I go now?
Why do you have to go any place?
Archie, you are a victim of the nomadic instincts of the tribal days. In this 20th century, it's a waste of time to go out. If you want to talk to somebody, you pick up a telephone. If you want to find out what's going on in the world, you read a newspaper. If you want to listen to fine music, you tune in your radio on the symphony concerts. If you want sunlight, you turn on the ultraviolet ray. If it's a hot day and you want to be cool, press a button and turn on a fan. If you're foolish enough to believe in exercise, you can always ride a mechanical horse. Food, meat, and drink are brought to your door. You can even buy your clothes by mail. Look at those fools. The streets are always crowded with people hopping back and forth, tiring themselves, rushing to nowhere.
It's a good chance for us to rush out and get married. I got the ring and the license.
Yep. This is the big moment.
Wait a minute, Archie. There's a sinister-looking man prowling around.
What?
He's looking in the front window. You better go down and see what he wants.
Mm-hmm. Maybe a suspect. Looking for someone?
I wanted to see Mr. Wolfe, but I didn't want to disturb him if he was busy.
Nothing disturbs Mr. Wolfe, and he's always busy. Come on in.
Good evening, Mr. Roberts. You can go, Maisie. I need Archie tonight, but you can be married tomorrow.
No wonder your mother named you Nero.
I'm here, sir, because I think I owe you an explanation.
You're here because you didn't go to the golf club as you said you were going this afternoon.
That's what I wanted to explain. If you remember, I left after Manuel Kimball arrived. The fact of the matter is, I don't like it, sir. I don't like to be in the same room with him.
Why?
Because of an incident that happened some time ago. I hesitated telling you about it, Mr. Wolfe, but I've heard of your reputation. I knew you'd find out about it sooner or later anyway.
Oh, sit down. Repeat that for Archie, please.
I heard it.
Well, up until a year ago, I was the golf instructor at the America Club in Buenos Aires. Young Mr. Kimball was a member there. When his father came to the Argentine last year, he was a guest at the club. Old man Kimball, you know, hasn't lived in South America for years. And then one day, several $100s was stolen from Mr. Kimball's locker. Well, I had keys to all the lockers. Young Mr. Kimball charged me with stealing the money. I was dismissed from the club and left South America under a cloud.
It's all very interesting, but I hardly see what it has to do with the case we're working on.
Well, I wanted to explain to you why I left so hurriedly. You see, sir, I've got a bad temper. I was afraid young Kimball might make me lose it. I've owed him a licking for a long time, and someday I'm going to give it to him.
Why did you come back here, skulking around, peering into my windows?
I wanted to see if Kimball was here. See what he was telling you about me, my fiancée, her mother.
What was there to tell?
Nothing. Nothing more than I've already told. But I was worried.
The trouble with worrying, Mr. Roberts, is that we worry about the wrong thing. I once knew a man who worried morning, noon, and night about his indigestion. A few months later, he died in the electric chair. I mustn't get away from the subject. How do you feel about Kimball Sr.?
He was very gracious about the whole affair. Of course, that didn't help much after I was fired.
How did the people in Buenos Aires feel about Kimball Sr. and Jr.?
Whatever you want to know about the Kimballs, you'll have to find out for yourself.
Thank you, Mr. Roberts. I'll be seeing you again soon, I hope. Come in anytime.
And next time, come right in. Don't play Peeping Tom. That gives me an idea.
Really?
Don't you think we ought to find the missing golf club, the one that killed Barstow?
Oh, let the police find it. O'Grady will be around here bragging about his remarkable work. The way to get your money in this business, Archie, is not by finding the missing evidence, but by finding the murderer. I have an idea. We'll invite some other people from the West Hills Golf Club.
But there might be fingerprints on the golf club.
The only fingerprints on that golf club will be O'Grady's.
I'm going up there anyway and have a look around.
Go ahead. Hello, operator. Get me the West Hills Golf Club in Westchester, huh?
It's a little brother movement?
The chief must have become a scoutmaster.
These are young friends of mine, caddies from the West Hills Golf Club. There's Johnny, there's Tommy, there's Bill, and Mike.
Hiya, boys.
You should have had them here 3 days ago.
I saw Grady. They found the club. No fingerprints.
Sorry you're late. We had squab stuffed with wild rice. But I've got a special little treat fixed up for you and Maisie.
Frankfurters, sauerkraut, and mustard.
Just like Coney Island, except you haven't got the sand in your shoes. The boys here have been educating me about golf.
Must be tough to admit to something you don't know.
Oh, I know all about it now. Johnny here was the professor's caddy.
Yeah, he was my baby.
Your baby? You look sort of young to be a father.
Proving I know more about golf now than you. When a player likes a certain caddy and won't take any other, he's that caddy's baby. Now, Tommy here caddied for Mr. Roberts, and Bill caddied for young Kimball, and Mike for old man Kimball.
Oh, they all have babies.
Now, what we fellas are going to do is pretend it's that same Sunday afternoon. The bags are over your shoulders. Your players were waiting to tee off. I suppose when the starter says, you're next, you fellows were together exchanging gossip. And your babies were in a group by themselves.
No, sir. It wasn't that way at all. The professor and Mr. Roberts were going to play a twosome. We were all ready to start when the caddy master comes up and says we have to make it a foursome. Because of being Sunday, it's too crowded for twosomes.
Oh, I see. Now, where was the professor standing? Now, this is the professor. You show me where he was. This is the starting tee.
Well, if this is the professor, he was right next to the tee.
Yeah, well, where was his caddy?
He sent me up to the clubhouse for his eye shade.
And what were you doing while Johnny was standing by his baby?
I was chewing gum.
Oh, you were chewing gum. Weren't you doing anything else?
Yes, I was blowing bubbles with it.
You were chewing gum and blowing bubbles. Anything else?
Sure, I was holding young Mr. Kimball's bag.
When did the professor tee off?
Well, he was third, and Mr. Roberts and young Mr. Kendall were ahead of him.
I see. And I suppose you handed the professor his driver.
Yes, sir. No, I couldn't have done that. This is me here, and I'm over here getting his eye shade, and I've got his bag with me. I know.
Yeah?
He borrowed old man Kimball's driver. No, he didn't borrow it. Old man Kimball offered it to him.
You sure about that?
Yes, sure. I can count on that. Old man Kimball was driving off first. He took out his driver and says, here, use mine.
Gee, that's right. Maybe he did.
You sure you got that straight now?
Oh,
yeah,
that's right.
That's right. I didn't come back until old man Kimball had made his drive.
That's swell, boys. That's swell. Don't try to fool a detective. So it wasn't the professor who wanted to murder at all. It was old man Kimball. Because whoever put the club in old man Kimball's bag couldn't have had any idea that the professor was going to use it. And old man Kimball would have been 6 feet under the sod right now if the professor hadn't borrowed his driver. Now I ask you, is that one for the book? So we got to start all over again, still playing hide and seek. But now the question is, who wanted to kill Kimball?
Did you ever read a small-town paper, Archie? They're very interesting.
No, and I don't try to grow white orchids either. I thought we were working on a murder case.
You aren't, but I am. You're just rehashing everything that we already know. You're living in the past.
And I suppose you can tell the future.
I can tell you from this very interesting social chatter of Westchester that John J. Driscoll, the famous lawyer, is moving into his new colonial house and celebrating the event with a big party. That Miss Mary Hastings, who spent the weekend with her parents, Mr. and Mrs. Jonathan Hastings, returned to Vassar on Monday. And that Mr. E.J. Kimball will arrive from Chicago tonight. I can also tell you that it's your job to find out what train he's coming in on, and to get on that train at the 125th Street station. Unless you prefer to meet him with his friends and perhaps his enemies at the Grand Central Station.
So the thing for you to do, Mr. Kimball, is to quietly come along with us and see Nero Wolfe.
Nero Wolfe? I don't know him.
And you're not missing anything.
Young man, if you think I've got time to waste on every fanatic who thinks he knows more about my business than I do myself, you're mistaken. I'm a very busy man.
Now, Mr. Kimball, you may be the #1 man in the olive oil business, but to me, you're just beer cap #3 on a murder list. Everybody has you tagged as the man who killed Barstow. We're the only ones who know that you missed being murdered by such a hair.
Oh, it's a lot of twaddle.
That's one thing that's always bothered me. Just what is twaddle?
Keep quiet. Well, I guess we've done all we can. If you insist on being a corpse, I suppose that's your business. But remember this. You handed that golf club out of your bag to Professor Barstow. And you know what happened to him. But what can this Nero Wolfe do for me? Nothing except keep you alive. Unless you're tired of it all. Oh, it's a lot of twaddle. You can't make it twaddle just by saying so. Now, my advice to you, Mr. Kimball, is to walk out of Grand Central Station with Maisie on one arm and me on the other. Williams, take these things home. I have some business to do in town. Now, I'll tell you why I came here, Mr. Wolfe. I came here to tell you that everything that you and this young man here have said is twaddle. Mr. Wolfe, I haven't an enemy in this world.
No, please, Mr. Kimball. I wish you'd manage to stick to the facts. If you had used that golf club, you'd be dead. Someone wanted to murder you.
Sure, you're living on borrowed time.
There's nothing that leads me to suppose that he still doesn't want to kill you. Frankly, Mr. Kimball, it's none of my business unless you wish to make it so by retaining me.
I'm sorry, Mr. Wolfe, but I'm not convinced. Besides, I'm a fatalist.
Emerson said that there were two kinds of fatalists. The first one wakes up in the middle of the night, hears a burglar downstairs and says, what fate decrees must be, turns over and goes back to sleep. The second one says, if fate decrees that I shall be murdered no matter what I do. So I'll go downstairs and try and knock his head off. I advise you to be of the second kind.
Hello? Who wants to speak to him? It's O'Grady.
Yes, certainly. Oh, that's very interesting. You don't know quite how interesting that is. Yeah, that's a good idea. All right, thank you.
I'm very glad to have met you, Mr. Wolfe, and I feel fully entertained for the time I wasted.
Oh, I think you'd be interested to know about that telephone call. It was from Lieutenant O'Grady of the police force. Your car has been wrecked and your chauffeur is dead. Killed by the bite of a fer-de-lance evidently placed in your car.
Fer-de-lance? What bit him?
A fer-de-lance, probably the most poisonous snake in the world. Mr. Kimball can tell you all about it. They're more common in the Argentine.
You're right. Somebody's trying to kill me. You gotta help me. Don't you realize that if I'd been in that car, I'd be dead now?
Well, why do you think we brought you here?
I'll do anything you want me to.
Fine, Archie. Take Mr. Kimball over to the McAndrews Hotel. Register him under your name. Mr. Kimball, I'll send for you when I need you. And Archie, before you leave Mr. Kimball at the hotel, he'll give you a check.
A check?
Young man, I have no intention of telling you anything. The reason I brought you here was to have you tell me a few things. Now, we're not playing any games here, and this is no time for you to be noble and say that you won't talk about the affairs of the Kimballs. Because if it's true that you have nothing against Mr. Kimball Sr., this is your chance to help him. Now, what happened in South America?
All right, I'll tell you. Mr. Kimball was tried for the murder of his wife. He was acquitted.
The details?
Well, it's the kind of story women like to gab about over teacups. I don't know the details, except that after he was acquitted, he left South America and never went back until last year. It was something about another man.
Did you ever hear of a fer-de-lance?
Yes, it's a snake. The most poisonous snake of the tropics.
Did you ever see one?
No, thank you.
Now, let's see. You were in South America, old man Kimball lived there, and his son was there, of course. Has anybody else involved in this case ever been to South America?
Well...
Have they or haven't they?
I think, Mr. Wolfe, that Ellen Barstow was born there. But she came to this country when she was just a baby.
We already know that your daughter was born in South America. That isn't the reason we brought you here. What I want to know is, did you know Mr. Emmanuel J. Kimball in Buenos Aires?
Why should I know him?
Well, you were both there at the same time. It only seems natural that you might have met.
I've never spoken a word to Mr. Kimball in my life.
You were married to the late Professor Barstow in 1928, weren't you? That's 8 years ago.
Yes.
Who was your first husband?
Mrs. Barstow was previously married to a Mr. Henderson. But I don't see what that's got to do with...
Please, I'm the doctor here. Was your first husband in South America with you when your daughter was born?
Yes.
Did you leave there together and come back to the States?
No.
Did your husband die there?
Mr. Wolfe, you're being needlessly cruel. She can't tell you what happened to her first husband. No one knows whether he's alive or dead.
Oh, yes, there's someone who knows. Hamanza. Hamanza knows everything. Why don't you ask Hamanza your questions? He'll tell you why I hate Mr. Kimball. He'll tell you what happened to my first husband. He'll tell you whose hands are stained with blood.
Your father was charged with the murder of your mother. He was tried and acquitted. All I want to know is, do you believe him guilty?
Nobody who knows him believes him guilty. Even the newspapers of that time agreed that my mother was killed by Mrs. Barstow's first husband. He disappeared on the day of her death. My father suffered a great deal because of this in the past. He's almost forgotten it. Surely you can gain nothing by opening up old wounds.
I'm afraid opening up old wounds is my business. Now, I've got to ask you some very personal questions about your family history.
Mr. Wolfe, I prefer that you find out what you want to know from someone else.
Very well. I will. If you don't tell me everything I want to know, I must withdraw from the case.
All right, Mr. Wolfe. It's the old story. I was away on a trip. I came back a day too soon. There was my wife and Mrs. Barstow's first husband, a man named Henderson. Next day, my wife was found dead. The other man had disappeared. I was tried for murder. I was acquitted. I left South America, stayed away 15 years. Meantime, my son had left school. He'd grown to manhood. I wanted him with me, so I went back to get him.
Mr. Kimball, when you first came in here, you said that nobody would want to kill you. I can tell you 5, maybe 6 people that had a motive.
Oh, that's impossible.
First, your son.
What?
Motive, revenge. He thinks you the murderer of his mother and might want to avenge her death. Second, Mrs. Barstow.
Mrs.
Motive, revenge. You say her first husband disappeared. She thinks you killed him as well as your wife. Number 3, Ellen Barstow. Motive, revenge, and for the same reason as the mother. Number 4, Dr. Bradford. Number 5, Claude Roberts. Motive, his love for Ellen Barstow, and his disgrace in South America at your hands. Number 6. Number 6. What about Mr. Henderson, Mrs. Barstow's first husband? You say he disappeared. You have no reason to believe him dead, have you?
No, I haven't.
That's rather an odd question to ask of a man. Most people believe guilty of his murder. But let us suppose he did disappear. Suppose he reappears. What person does he want to meet most in all the world? You. Isn't that right, Mr. Kimball?
Yes, I suppose it is. That's who it might be. Mrs. Barstow's first husband.
Now, there's another possibility, an entirely different direction that might mean we're barking up the wrong tree.
I don't understand that.
You had motive enough to kill Professor Barstow.
But I wouldn't.
But you had a motive. Revenge on Mrs. Barstow. She and her first husband nearly wrecked your life. You could have had that chauffeur killed to make people think that you were an intended victim rather than the murderer. For you see, Mr. Kimball, we know now from the police chemist's report that the mysterious poison that killed Professor Barstow and Carlo Marangola was the venom of the fer-de-lance. The same poison that killed your chauffeur.
Please don't believe that.
You could have killed Carlo Marangola on that lonely Westchester Street, but I didn't. I'm only outlining possibilities. But make sure of this, Mr. Kimball. If you did, that check you gave me won't help you. Archie, Mr. Kimball is going home now, and you're going with him. Don't let him out of your sight. Be prepared to stay a month if necessary.
A month? What'll Maisie say?
Maisie will say, when are we going to get married?
You go to jail.
What do you mean I go to jail? I'm the guy who sends other people to jail.
Not when you're playing Monopoly.
You see, this game was really designed for the tired businessman who isn't quite tired enough. I think it might interest you to play it. I'm afraid you and my son, however, are doomed to certain failure.
Dinner is ready, sir.
Oh. Well, let's play a couple of rounds first, huh?
Oh, all right. Well, then I'll begin. 5. Oh, Reading Railroad. That's not a bad investment for $200. I'll buy it.
Reading Railroad, $200.
You go next so I get the idea. A natural. What does that mean?
Chance. That means he has to take one of those chance cards and do whatever it says.
You win second prize in the beauty contest. Collect $11.
If I'd have drawn that card, I'd have known this was fake money.
Now let's go to dinner.
What do you mean? On my roll, I'd die of suspense. Come on. Give us the dough. $200. Your throw.
Dinner is very ready, sir.
Oh, it's 8 o'clock. I'm hungry.
Oh, come on, let's finish the game.
Oh, well.
10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You're on my hotel. $2,000, please.
Well, I can pay you 3 railroads. That breaks me.
Stick around, Junior. I'm going to work on you now. 5. You're on a railroad. I own all the railroads. I got a monopoly. $200, please. The kid's trying to break it gently. He's broke. Now, what do I do with all this dough?
Now we change that into the real money that you
Okay.
won. 10 cents from each of us.
20 cents, gee. Don't tell Nero Wolfe about this, or he'll expect me to give him half.
Dinner is ruined, sir.
And so are the Kimballs.
I've never been beaten at this game before. You know, you've got a very good business sense. Ever thought about going into business?
Maisie's been talking to you. Duck! Don't jump over the railing. That's what he wants. Stay where you are. When he comes towards us, we'll nail him. Oh. Are you hurt, Father? Stay where you are. No, I'm all right. I hit my head. He's getting away. He must be in New Rochelle by now.
Oh, hello.
Fancy meeting you here. You're lucky you weren't shot.
Somebody tried to shoot my father.
We chased after him, but by the time we got in the lawn, he was gone.
Hey, there was a woman who came through that hedge and got into a car.
Did she have a gun?
A silver one or a black one.
A black one.
I didn't ask her.
Right after the shots, I went over to the Barstow house. Yeah, Mrs. Barstow was there, but it looked like she just came in.
What about the daughter?
She was out with Roberts. I didn't want to call from the house, so I'm using a pay station.
A pay station? Well, you better talk fast then.
Well, I've told you everything. Oh, Maisie said it was a woman who came out of the house.
Maisie, are you working on a case or are you up there on a house party?
Well, I didn't tell her to come. I ran out of the house and boom, there she was.
Now, look, don't waste your time talking. Round up all those people. Scare them to death if you have to. Tell them any one of them is apt to be shot at next. And get them down here.
Tonight, rounding out that bunch will be worse than chasing a lot of rabbits.
You got your orders, now get to work.
Hello, Chief. Yes, operator, what do you want? 20 cents more. You may not realize it, lady, but here go the profits on a boardwalk hotel, 4 railroads, and an entire public utility system.
20 cents more? Why, you spendthrift. Get to work.
In the first place,
This is the most ridiculous thing I ever heard of.
I know. This isn't the deluxe method of traveling to which you're accustomed, but my orders were to deliver you to Nero Wolfe safe and sound.
Well, why can't we count our own cars?
Because it's easier to protect a flock of sheep than 6 scattered ones.
Chief, that's a good name for us. And Wolf is a good name for your employer.
We allow ourselves to be herded like this because Wolf says we're in danger. Well, I don't believe it.
Neither do I.
All right.
Then what'd you come for, the buggy ride or the pleasure of my delightful company? Personally, I don't care whether you ride, jump, or fly. But if I'd allowed you to come in your own cars and one of you got bumped off, it would have placed me in a very embarrassing predicament. Now, any more questions?
Yes.
Yeah, I know. When are we going to get married?
Good evening, Mr. Wolfe.
Good evening.
It was nice of you to do this for my father.
Good evening, Mr. Kimball. Good evening. Good evening, Miss Barstow.
Well, all present and accounted for.
Excellent. I can't tell you how pleased I am to see each one of you come safely through that door. I had a premonition that at least one of you might not get here alive.
Utterly fantastic.
And suppose I get an emergency call from one of my patients tonight.
You're only trying to frighten us.
I've only come here, Mr. Wolfe, to tell you I'm not going to stay.
If the rest of you had been through what we have this evening, you might not be so impatient with Mr. Wolfe. If there's any danger, I want to be with my father. That's why I'm here.
And I'm here because I'm here.
I'm sorry if I disturbed the everyday routine of your lives, but I thought it was necessary. If I were giving a party, I think I could have found more compatible guests. But Professor Barstow, Carlo, and the chauffeur have been murdered. And we've had conclusive evidence tonight in the 4th attempt that our murderer is not yet finished. His plan might have been to kill all of you. Now, all arrangements have been made. You will each be assigned a safe, comfortable room. Your meals will be provided. You'll be charged for them, of course, and for the room. And Archie will do whatever bellhopping is necessary.
What?
Archie will now show you to your rooms. Of course, if any of you wish to leave, I can't force you to stay. I am touched by your faith in me, and I guarantee you this, that as long as you stay under this roof, you'll be perfectly safe. Archie?
Right this way. All quiet on the western front. I just tucked the last one in bed. Now where do I sleep?
I wouldn't forget you, Archie. Olaf will fix you a bed right here on the table. Olaf, take these things away.
What have I done to deserve this?
It's only for the night. Because within 24 hours, this case will be finished. The murderer is in this house, and no murderer as egotistical as the man we are dealing with could possibly refuse to accept our challenge. Good night, Archie, and may sweet dreams divert you.
And this was to be my wedding night.
Someone calling you, Archie.
Where's the soap?
Sherlock Holmes at the sink. The mystery of the missing soap, or who ate the cake.
Don't rub it in. This is the last time we gotta wash dishes for that crowd. Wolfe said last night that he cracked this case in 24 hours.
If you were a nice, respectable furniture salesman, instead of playing dishwasher to a lot of cutthroats, you'd be home, sitting in a comfortable chair, smoking your pipe with your slippers on, at ease with the world. Which reminds me, when are we going to get married?
No kidding. 5 minutes after this case is over, I won't be a detective any longer. I'm gonna quit Wolfe.
Archie! Oh, gee.
Listen, you only know Archie Goodwin, the detective. You don't know Archie, the Romeo. Baby, when the moon is shining over Brooklyn and Coney Island is just around the corner, you and I will be walking hand in hand along that starlit way.
Archie, the coffee, please. Please, Archie, take the coffee upstairs. If it gets cold, Mr. Wolfe blows up the roof.
All right.
Tell me more, Archie, before I get cold.
It'll be springtime in Flatbush. And the rubber trees will be stretching themselves in front of our door.
Yeah.
And we'll have a flower box in front of every window with dahlias and geraniums. Maybe sunflowers. We may even grow poison ivy, but I'll tell you one thing, baby, there'll be no orchids.
Certainly a very fine dinner, Mr. Wolfe.
Oh, Archie, let me have another of those cigars.
Eat, drink, and be merry. For tomorrow we
May die. Go ahead and say it.
There's a young lady here, Mr. Wolfe.
Well, who is it, Olaf?
A young lady, Mr. Wolfe.
What is it, Marie?
A young lady. Marie.
Well, bring her in. You'll forgive me, but I must see this young lady. Come in, Marie. We'll go into the next room. I know my guests will excuse me.
Have you found out anything, Mr. Wolfe?
Now, my dear Marie, I don't know yet who killed your brother. But if you do exactly what I tell you, we'll know by 12 o'clock.
You know I'll do anything to help you, Mr. Wolfe.
I know you will. That's why I sent for you. Now, my plan is very simple.
Mr. Wolfe trains all his cooks himself. If you think Olaf can cook, you should see the meals we have here on the cook's day off. They're terrific. Why, the chief can take a nickel's worth of bologna, a couple of onions, and a potato, and do things with them that'd make Oscar at the Waldorf green with envy.
That's the only thing we need, Marie. You bring us that information and our case will be complete. Then all our guests will be able to go home. Wait. Archie, the telephone. I don't want you to be wasting any time. Hello? Is this the General Taxi Service? This is Nero Wolfe talking. I want you to send a car to my house right away and take a young lady to, what is the address?
828 West 17th Street.
828 West 17th Street. Yes. You leave her there, then go back and pick her up at 12 o'clock. All right, Charles. Thank you very much. Goodbye. And now, Marie, you go downstairs and have Olaf give you a cup of hot coffee while you're waiting for your car, huh? Well, you won't have to stay here much longer. That young lady is going to meet a man who worked with her brother. That man is going to give her a complete description of the person that hired Carlo to make the golf club that killed Professor Barstow.
Why didn't he give it to her over the telephone? Why does he have to see her to give it to her?
You know, I asked myself that very same question. It can be answered very simply. He wanted $500, and I just gave it to her. Now, there's nothing more to worry about. When Marie comes back, we'll find out who the murderer is. And now, if you'll excuse me, I'll go upstairs and work on another case. The most beautiful one I've ever tackled. You see, I'm trying to develop a pure white orchid. If any of you are interested, come right up.
That was a very smart move, Chief. I could see what you were doing down there.
Then it must have been obvious.
Oh, only to a trained mind. You told him that story about Carlo's sister, figuring that whoever did the murder would make a beeline for the house, and you had the house watched.
No. Archie, our murderer is too smart to be caught in a trap so obvious that even you could see it. No, that isn't the trick at all.
Well, what are you going to do now, Chief?
I think I'll go downstairs and get something to eat. I'm hungry.
Hungry? Why, you just ate a whole turkey.
Yeah, but it was a small one. Fate cannot harm me. I have dined today.
6 times.
Did Archie tell you he was going into the furniture business?
That's where he belongs.
Now, Chief, that's a fine way to talk, after I've given you the best years of my life. What makes you think I belong in the furniture business?
Well, maybe you're right. Maybe you don't belong in the furniture business.
What's wrong with the furniture business? There's a great future in the furniture business in interior decorating. There are new ideas in it that people need. Take this place, for example. It's old-fashioned. It ought to be done over in modern style. Nowadays, the thing to be is simple.
Simple? Really, Archie, you have a great career ahead of you.
For you, Mr. Wolfe.
More orchid bulbs.
Are you finished?
Yes.
Wait. Listen. It's ticking. It's a bomb. Get some water.
Not yet, Archie. Let us be calm.
But it's a bomb. Douse it quick before it blows us up.
Let me handle this bomb. It was sent to me personally. Now sit down, all of you, please. I wonder who could have sent it.
The murderer. He wants to blow us up. While you're asking dizzy questions, it'll explode in your face.
No, Archie. Our murderer is far too clever to advertise his bomb with a loud tick, but he underestimates us. He thought we were going to put it in water right away. That's just what he wanted us to do. I wonder why.
I give up.
I know.
Smells like peaches.
Peaches.
Maisie, you're the best detective of us all. Of course it smells like peaches. There's a certain deadly chemical that does. Now, do you see what would have happened, Archie?
What time is the clock set for?
The clock has nothing to do with it. If we had been fooled by the loud ticking of the clock and plunged this package into this pan of water, the mixture of the water and the chemical would have formed a gas that would have killed us before we could have reached that door.
Oh, I know. That's the stuff they use for executions.
Exactly. Olaf, give me that piece of string. Now, the thing to do is to tie this package up exactly as it was.
Where are you going with that stuff?
I'm going to my room. I'll see you at 12 o'clock. Don't let anybody disturb me. The seed of the orchid is microscopic. There are millions of them in a single seed pod. Now, we incubate the seed in bottles on a layer of agar. 8 to 18 months. Then we remove the sprout and place it in these little pots. It takes from 4 to 8 years to get a bloom from the single seed of an orchid. Now...
Pardon me, Mr. Wolfe. This package came before. I forgot to give it to you.
From the Southern Greenhouse. Did I order anything from the Southern Greenhouse, Archie?
Well,
Not since the 10th of last month.
Maybe they're sending me some complimentary bulbs. Well, that's nice of them. All right, Olaf.
But, Mr. Wolf, the bulbs, they make a funny noise.
Noise?
Well, they go tick, 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 tick. Listen.
Look out, Mr. Wolf, it's a bomb. You better get it in water right away. It's a time bomb. It's liable to go off any minute.
Stay where you are, every one of you. Archie, stand next to him and watch him. This isn't a bomb. None of us has an enemy crude enough to send a bomb that way when we could escape it by simply putting it in that water trough. What this young man suggests is the thing we ought not to do. I don't know what's in this package, but whatever it is, the person that sent it wants us to put it in the water. How did you know it was a bomb?
I heard it ticking.
Did you ever see that handwriting before?
All right, Mr. Wolf. Give me that bomb. And don't anybody move. Mr. Wolf, you're a whole lot smarter than I thought. You're right about that package being deadly only when it's been put in water. You've been right all along. I never meant to kill Professor Barstow. I meant to kill the man who murdered my mother. I had to kill Carlo Marangola because he threatened me with exposure. And I didn't want to be exposed until I had killed my father. I'd have killed him the night he got back into town if it hadn't been for your interference, Mr. Goodwin. So an innocent man, a chauffeur, died in his place. Ever since I was a small boy, I've dreamed about this moment. I grew up for it. I used to laugh myself to sleep on the boat coming up from South America because I knew that in my bag was a fer-de-lance, the most loathsome snake in the world. And I thought it only fitting that that snake should kill you. But now you're going to die this way instead.
All right. Go get him, Archie.
But the gun!
You don't suppose I'd leave a loaded gun on the table, do you? Come in, boys.
Archie, the bomb!
Yeah, the bomb, the chemicals, the gas, the bubbles.
The same alarm clock, 118 beer bottle caps and some settlers powder. Oh, by the way, I used up all I had. Give me some more tomorrow, huh?
Aspirin for me.
I'm sorry I had to make a goat out of you for a minute, but I had to divert attention.
That was all right. This is the first time I've smiled in 7.5 days.
There's one thing I don't understand, Chief. Manuel was with us the night the shot was fired at the Kimballs. Don't tell me he was with us on the terrace while he was shooting at himself from the garden at the same time.
Marie fired those shots.
Marie?
Yeah, following orders.
Nice work, making me a target. The bullet whizzed right past my ear.
Right past your ear, huh? Those bullets were blanks.
Hiya, Chief. I got great news for you.
Yeah, I know. You were married at 10:40 this morning at the little church around the corner.
I suppose you can tell the time on his face and the place on mine.
Bless you, my children. You know, there's an old-fashioned custom that must be adhered to.
Oh, Mr. Wolfe.
Oh, amazing.
Oh, Mr. Wolfe. What do you think of your ex-assistant? We're going out and pick out an apartment now, and we're going to Coney Island for a week on a honeymoon. And Archie's going to start his career as a furniture salesman.
Going to Coney Island on your honeymoon? Coney Island is no place to go on a honeymoon, excuse me. You're going to Paris. My wedding present, the bridal suite on the Ile de France, and you sail at midnight.
Europe? Do you really mean it, Mr. Wolfe?
There are the tickets.
Oh, gee, Chief, that's swell.
Oh, I'm going to kiss you again. This would be a great help to Archie when he starts selling furniture. He can talk about all those antiques he sees.
Oh, of course.
Sure. Can you imagine me on the Eiffel Tower?
Oh, marvelous. Oh, Archie, there's something I want you to do for me on the way over. Yeah. I just had a cable from London. A very wealthy gentleman on the last voyage over who occupied the cabin 68 on deck B is supposed to have committed suicide.
And you think he was murdered?
Now, you'll find all the details in this envelope. He was traveling alone.
Is that so?
Now, I want you to talk to the steward and the purser. Everybody. Find out what he did every day. what he ate, what he drank, and who his friends were on board.
Anything else, Chief?
No, nothing else. Just cable me anything that looks unimportant to you.